Hammer turn, and then kind of, I mean, piece together KOs from there. I don't know if Peter knows this, but Zach doesn't play the Choice Band, so the Ganondorf can't one-shot a Lucario, which is a huge deal.
Yep.
So Lucario is definitely going to be, definitely is what Peter's going to look to be his main attacker, and like I said, I don't know if Peter knows he doesn't play Choice Band, but if he does, Lucario is by far the best attacker in the deck for Peter.
Yeah, so we see Peter use Jirachi's Stellar Wish ability, of course, extremely powerful. Gets the Lily off of that, so he'll be able to Lily for 5 now. Probably just looking for an energy to attach here, I would assume.
Yeah, at the very least, an energy would be good. Not even necessary, like the Lucario only does attack for 1 energy, but yeah, at the very least, an energy would be nice.
I think we see a Brooklet Hill at the top of his hand, so maybe he plays that and finds another fighting type, another Riolu. But he's maybe holding that. No, just kidding. He's going to play that.
Yeah, Buzzwole, Riolu would be okay here. Here it is, the 2 Riolos. Buzzwole would be okay. He doesn't actually have a ton of options to grab here. I almost think it would have been better to hold it to try and counter one of Zach's stadiums potentially on the first turn. He ends up with the Diancie here, which is okay, but he doesn't really need to find anything aggressively here, I feel like. And I feel like maybe saving the stadium to just make sure Zach doesn't get to keep one of his stadiums in play might have been a little bit more beneficial.
Sure. Something to note here, with Diancie's damage buff, Lucario will be able to do 140 damage with Aura Strike, which is enough to knock out a clean Ganondorf. So that can come into play later, but looks like he does end up passing after attaching to the Riolu. We'll see how Zach responds.
Yeah, we see Zach does have the Ultra Space in his hand. He's going to start off with the Brooklet, check his he can't actually get anything with it, but he'll be able to check his prize card, see what he has access to immediately. And he does have the Ultra Space in hand, so immediately going to probably counter that stadium there from Peter, and probably would have put it in play himself on his first turn, and then Peter could have, like I said, possibly countered it with his Brooklet Hill.
Sure. Obviously, just taking a look, he does run the full 4-4 line, and he also does run a 1-1 Alolan Muk. That can come in handy knocking out opponents' Jirachi, as we see here, as well as Peter's Diancie, which could be useful. So he does replace the Brooklet with Ultra Space, immediately pulls a Poipole to the front.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely try and get out the Muk. Definitely very beneficial potentially in this matchup. I don't think he should be too aggressive about getting it out. Definitely wants to make sure the Naganadels get out into play, but if he's setting up comfortably with the Naganadels, he should definitely be looking to get the Muk out. Definitely will do a lot of work. Be quite effective against Peter's field.
He does have at least 1 Fire Energy in his hand to attach as well, and he does have a Cynthia and a Lily, so he's got the gamut of options here for his supporter for turn. Looks like he's eyeing the Lily, and he will for 5.
Yeah, has a Let Loose as well, which could be a decent option. I'm not sure how many cards Peter has in his hand. He might want to try and shut down Peter's next turn potentially through that. There's the Treasure. I'll probably get another Poipole.
Poipole. He Mysterious Treasures away the Fire Energy. Now, is the Grimer that he's running a Psychic type? I would assume it's the Psychic type, so he can search it with Treasure.
Yeah, I would assume he would be playing the Psychic Grimer. I'm not actually quite sure which one that is. There's the Let Loose. Yeah, if he does play the Psychic Grimer, I would have loved to have seen him grab that. Might be prized, and have a way to get a Ditto, so he didn't not go after the Ditto. But yeah, if the Grimer is prized, kind of rough for Zach there. Definitely, I think he definitely would have gone after it if it wasn't. The Muk definitely has quite a few benefits to being set up in this matchup for sure.
And he does play that Let Loose. Both players shuffle in and draw 4 cards from their deck. Obviously, kind of a pseudo additional draw supporter they can play. He does get a Heat Factory and a couple Fire Energy off of this Let Loose, but you can only play 1 Stadium card a turn. So I'll have to wait till next turn to use it. And he actually uses Burst GX on the first turn and, of course, rips a Fire Energy. Cash money for Zach.
Yeah.
That's a great use of the GX tag.
Yeah, great value of the GX attack there. High fire count, so decently likely good. His hand is almost dead, but he does have the Heat Factory, so he does have some options still. And over to Peter grabbing Buzzwole GX early, immediately getting rid of it, so he knows he does not want to use that in this matchup.
Yeah, he actually grabbed the Buzzwole GX with Zach's Ultra Space. So that one is actually beneficial to both of them.
Yeah.
Discards, like you said, that Buzzwole and an Ultra Ball, and he takes a Lucario here. So he's just going to start right off, putting some pressure on this Blacephalon, it looks like, this turn. Still has access to Stellar Wish, and has not used his supporter for turn yet.
Yeah, I feel like Lucario is the best thing to be aggressive with here, because you definitely want to try and utilize the Sledgehammer attack for full effectiveness from Peter, so you don't want Zach to get around that by KOing a baby Buzzwole and then KOing a Lucario or something like that.
Sure.
So being aggressive about putting a GX into your active, doing as much damage as you can with that as Peter. means there's a good chance he's going to be able to use the Sledgehammer for the full effect, which you definitely want to see from Peter. It's another way for him to knock out a Naganadel, which I think is going to be the biggest problem for Peter in this matchup, knocking out Naganadels. Like you mentioned, Diancie plus Lucario, that's going to be able to knock them out, and then potentially the Sledgehammer to knock out Naganadel. And he's even being aggressive about going after the Poiples, as we see here.
Yeah, not only is he chasing down the Poiple, but he's chasing down Zach's energy. Now Zach is back down to 1 energy in play. Of course, he can get them back with Naganadel, but he is going to need a lot more to take a knockout this turn.
Yeah, because between the Ultra Ball now that he just drew and the Heat Factor, he could have been able to put quite a few energy in the discard pile, just need to find the Naganadels. So that could have been +1 energy in play, potentially. Of course, he maybe wouldn't have been able to put that many in the discard pile, but with the current hand, I think he definitely would have.
Yep.
Heat Factor can be about to be super important here, this Heat Factor draw.
So he does have another copy of Naganadel. He takes 1 copy with his Ultra Space to get the last effect of it before he most likely replaces it with that Heat Factory. He's got the second Naganadel on his hand as well, so he'll be able to draw a healthy amount of cards. He does run 1 copy of Tapu Lele GX as well, so he could possibly grab that with the Ultra Ball after this Heat Factory draw.
Yeah, so if the Heat Factory's not great, he will have some outs still. I think 2 Let Loose as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2 Let Loose, 1 Lele. So he has some outs still to draw cards through the Ultra Ball if he whiffs draw supporter off here off the Heat Factory.
You see Heat Factory, draws 3. There's a Grimer in there.
There is the Grimer, all right.
There's also a Mysterious Treasure. Still has his attach for turn. The problem is that if he doesn't find his 1 copy of Beast Energy Prism Star, he actually cannot knock out this Lucario in 1 hit because he'd only be doing 200 with the 4 energy.
Yeah, so we'll probably see the Bursting Burn. Yeah, here's actually he drew a Mysterious Treasure off the Heat Factor. So here we see the he's going with the Let Loose, not with the Lele here. Probably don't want to put the Lele in play. I like that. Gets rid of the Grimer, so I don't think he's going to be looking to set up Muk this game. We might see that change from game 1 to game 2 depending on how it goes.
Sure.
After he gets a feel for how the abilities affect the matchup through the Diancie and the Jirachi. If he feels like they are putting on the hurt, definitely we'll probably see him set up the Muk in this game. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with this matchup. So we'll see. Maybe the Muk is not quite as effective as I think it potentially is going to be. He's getting the Ditto here, so that could come into a Muk later on. We'll have to see what he chooses to do with that. And then the Let Loose.
There's the perfect Let Loose for 4. I'd like to see a high 5 from these players. Sycamore is gone, but there are still opportunities. And, something else that's kind of interesting is that, you say you don't have a lot of experience with this matchup, and I imagine Zach probably doesn't have too much either. Kica has an inherent advantage here in that his deck is Buzzwole's not a rogue deck by any means, but, you probably aren't testing against Buzzwole too much going into this event. So, not only does Kica have that advantage, but, there could be some tricks up his sleeve, too, so we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that works both ways. I don't think Kica was testing the Blounds matchup, the Blacephalon matchup very much himself.
Yeah.
Not a super popular deck. There was a couple in day 2, I think, here, but not a very popular deck in day 1.
Yep.
Didn't have a ton of success besides Zach himself with the Blounds.
Yep.
I think they're going to both a little blind into this one.
So we do see the double charging up from his 2 Naganadel. He's got a Fire Energy, and he's attaching that to the active Blacephalon. And he... just checking. I have 2 additional fire in the discard still. If you're Zach, would you maybe consider just using Blacephalon's first attack and burning and confusing the Lucario, or would you just hit for a certain amount of damage this turn?
I think Bursting Burn is, from what I can see, it seems pretty safe here. I think the Bursting Burn is definitely the way to go here from Zach. I don't know how much he knows about Kika's list. Kika does run heavy in the Acerola department.
Yep, 3 Acerola.
So almost actually not attacking here I think might be the best move here from Zach. Don't let him reset the Lucario. You don't want to hit it too hard because then it can get access to the GX attack. So I think actually from Zach here, if you just don't hit it, is probably the best way to go.
Sure.
But once again, we're not sure. We don't know if Peter knows that he runs a heavy Acerola account. But it looks like the Bursting Burn is going to come down. This will give Peter access to Acerola, and there's threat the GX attack from Peter doing enough damage to actually knock out the Blacephalon. So Zach's not really scared of the knockout. It would just be the Acerola reset that can be pretty scary.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Zach Lesage has played into Peter Kika's trap card.
We'll see if he's got it.
See if he can get Acerola. He does attach a fighting energy to this bench Riolu as well, but I don't know what else is in his hand here.
It doesn't look great.
He's got a Beast Energy, I think. It looks like he's opting to just go for an Aura Strike for... It would be 50 with the Diancie, but he flips Tails on Confusion.
He was maybe just flipping for Burn there. I'm not sure.
No, I think it was Confusion. So Confusion, if you flip a coin, and if Tails, you take 3 damage counters, and your attack obviously does nothing. He did flip Heads on the initial Burn tick, so he's no longer burned.
Yeah, so it'll still require the 4 energy from Zach. So yeah, that's definitely a worthwhile attack there from Peter. Still force Zach to get rid of 4 energy. It would have been 4 energy either way, so you're not really losing any value on that flip there from Peter. You just potentially get 30 damage out.
Yeah. So he uses Zach will use his Heat Factory again, getting Fire, and I'm not sure what the last card is. An Erica.
Yeah, his hand is, he's got a whole ton of options here. Getting rid of an energy switch with this Ultra Ball. Let's see if he goes for the Muk. That's what I'm most interested in. If he's going to go for the Muk. He knows Peter's hand can't be great.
Yep, there
so
it is.
Shut down the Jirachi. I love this. I love the Muk grab here. You know Peter's hand can't be great. He just attacked through confusion and didn't play any cards out of hand.
Yep.
Getting the Muk out, you know Jirachi is his current out on board to see more cards.
Yep. Yeah, definitely, and this could not have gone better for Zach. You know, the first Let Loose, it seems like Peter was able to recover from it a little bit, but the second one is just too much.
Yeah, the second one stuck pretty hard.
And it seems like in a lot of these matchups, that's all you need, even is just one turn of your opponent missing any sort of tempo play to get on top. We see an attachment to the Naganadel from hand, and then double charging up again. So there's a total of, what is that, 7 energy on board? So he'll need to pitch 4, like you said, but he can spread out the energy really efficiently here.
Yeah, definitely want to leave 1 on the active, make it so that Blacephalon can attack again, and then leaves 2 on the bench Naganadel. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of 2 on the bench Naganadel, but I don't think Peter can actually knock it out anyways.
Well, so I'm wondering here if maybe he leaves it on there, because now he's at 3 prizes, so he could use Naganadel's attack for its max effect.
Yeah, that's
160 damage with only an attachment. Looks like he does retreat the Jirachi. He cannot use it to a Lucario, or to a Riolu, evolves, attaches another Fighting Energy, and he'll use Aura Strike for 120, of course. That Diancie is now shut off, but he's setting himself up to use... I think the attack is Cartwheel Kick, maybe?
It's some kind of kick attack. I'm not sure of the name.
Yeah, some big bop attack.
Yeah, and I think here, I mean, the ideal play here from Zach, he is on the 3 prizes like you mentioned, so if he can find a way to get Fire in the discard pile and then probably retreat his active and then just take the knockout with Turning Point, protects the Blacephalon, moving it to the bench. Don't give up any extra prizes if you don't have to. As long as he's got a decent amount of energy in play, after that, I think that'll be a fine play.
Yeah.
And then you have an Naganadel on your active. You've gotten around Sledge turn. You've gotten around the Beast Ring turns. The game is pretty much over from there. Peter would make a miracle at that point. To come back.
And with no N in the format, it's almost impossible to stop your opponent from. We do see the energy in his hand, so he can attach that to the Blacephalon, pay to retreat it.
I don't think he has another energy in the discard pile, though.
Yeah, but he will attach...
Oh, he does. Okay.
Sure.
I thought he was out of energy in the discard pile, so I was like, I'm not sure why he didn't Heat Factory first. But yeah, he has some in the discard pile. So he's good to go then, yeah.
So he can also still just take a KO with this Blacephalon if he wants, but he's going to just protect that, not give Kica any opportunity to... maybe activate Beast Ring and get back into the game. Yeah,
you would lose equal energy in play anyways. I mean, like, if this Naganadel was to get knocked out, that'd be -3 energy. Then 2 from the retreat is -5, but if you attack, it's also -5 energy. So this way, you most benefit from this play for sure.
And Peter very gently picks up his cards. That was not what he wanted to see.
Yeah.
That is unfortunate. It's interesting. This deck is obviously very similar to the Buzzwole Lycanroc decks that were dominant last season, but the big thing with those is they had Octillery, and that was the glue that kept them together. And now, it's the same deck, it's just missing that super important consistency card, and we saw how bad it hurt Peter that game.
Yeah, you still have the Jirachi, but that's not quite Octillery, and because Zach does play Muk, it's even nothing compared to Octillery when that gets involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, So obviously, Peter's strategy going into Game 2 is probably he wants to, play more cards, play some supporters and stuff. So
a good start for sure.
Yeah, and for Zach on the other hand, do you think Zach played that really well, or would you like to see anything different from Zach? Or
be more aggressive about the Muk. I think after just seeing how Muk came into play that turn, it's got to be a good card to have out in the matchup. Shut off the Diancie, you shut off the Jirachis, which is Peter's draw engine. I don't think he plays like an Orangaroo or anything, right?
Nope, I don't believe so.
Completely shut off his draw engine. That sounds good to me. So we saw him get rid of the Grimer early. I don't think Zach will do that this game. I think he'll more aggressively look for the Grimer, get out the Muk. But besides that, it was super clean from Zach and kind of just playing to the advantage to the unfortunate draws there from Peter.
Yeah. Yeah, those Let Loose really. We've seen it so many times this weekend. The power of Let Loose.
It's pretty insane. The card is pretty good.
Peter, this game starts Buzzwole. He'll play a Kukui to draw 2. He does not have any energy in his hand. He's got a Nest Ball, I think.
Yeah, real rough start here from opening the Buzzwole. First of all, I don't think you might use it early on, but you don't want to you don't want to be forced into using it. You want to be like, okay, this is a situation where Buzzwole can be applied. I'm going to go with Buzzwole aggressively. But Peter currently forced into using Buzzwole. Matches up pretty well into Ditto, actually. I think we might see Zach try and like get rid of that. Oh, we're going with the Let Loose aggressive here from Zach. I'm not a big fan of that. He had the Heat Factory and a Fire, so he could have dug deeper to find other options, especially after Peter went Kukui Pass.
Right.
If Peter has energy there, he 100% puts it down. So you know he doesn't have an energy in hand, which means his hand probably not great. And you know if he had any other draw supporter, he would have played that over Kukui. So that means you're betting on the fact that he Kukui'd into a Cynthia pretty much, because his hand is too big to Lily as well at that point.
Yeah, something else that's interesting is Peter had a Nest Ball, but he opted not to play it, maybe protecting himself from a Guzma, so that way he can guarantee he can, take this Ditto down next turn.
Yeah, I think so for sure. All right, Peter, definitely a better hand than what he had.
Hold on, though. Zach has a second Let Loose in his hand, but he opts to just Cynthia right away. So now he has seen 10 cards this turn, and he hasn't even used Heat Factory yet.
Yeah, hasn't seen a whole ton of benefit out of it yet. Just the one Ditto and the initial Let Loose. But yeah, the best turn one that exists for Blacephalon is Heat Factory in play Let Loose. There's a very likely chance that you draw. If you don't draw anything you need, you're going to draw Fire Energy, which means you get to Heat Factory for 3. So Zach is off to a great start so far. We'll have to see how the Cynthia and Heat Factory play out, though, on the draw.
There's a Blacephalon and a Poipole in his hand, as well as a Fire Energy he can discard. One. He gets a Fire Energy and another Blacephalon so he can attach. He can put down a Poipole, Blacephalon.
I would like to see him attach. I think I'd like to see him retreat to the Blacephalon this turn, and then look for Bursting Burn on the following turn. I think you want to protect the Ditto here, because you don't know how much the Buzzwole is actually going to hit for, so if it does 30 to the Ditto anyways, the other 30 is going to go to the Blacephalon. So you may as well be like, well, if you have a Choice Band or a Kukui or Diancie, whatever, you get to do a little bit extra damage to the Blacephalon, but you don't get to take my Ditto.
Yep, definitely. So we see Peter play down a Riolu in his hand, play down his own Let Loose.
We'll see if the Let Loose magic works for Peter this time. He's definitely going to need a counter stadium to get to potentially lock Zach out with this Let Loose. Give him a not so good hand, because so many Fire Energy in Zach's deck. If he doesn't draw a draw supporter, he's going to draw Fire Energy, and then he'll have outs through the Heat Factory. So if this Let Loose is going to do any kind of damage in locking up Zach's hand, definitely going to have to see a Brooklet Hill as well.
Yeah. Peter was telling me earlier today that he's actually won a fair amount of games by just going Let Loose Jet Punch. So we'll see if he can do that. I think,
That's the Brooklet.
But there's no energy.
No energy, though.
Well, he hasn't played a supporter yet this turn, so if there's a supporter in his hand...
I think we got Beast Ring, Nestball, Jirachi, Brooklet for Peter.
That is terrible. Does he run... He runs no copies of Tapu Lele, so he cannot bail himself out that way, unfortunately.
This has been another rough draw for Peter, but I do feel like his deck... The matchups that Peter is looking to match up well into, he can play his deck out a little bit slower. I think Blacephalon might just be a little bit too fast for Peter's deck.
Sure.
Stuff like you have such a huge type advantage, the Pikarom. Again, Dark, you can play it a little bit slower and do just chip damage early on, and then you follow up with some big knockouts with Sledgehammer and the Lucario and such.
Sure.
So those are Peter's really good matchups, and I feel like his deck is even when he draws slow like this, still built well to be able to do that. But when you play against Blacephalon, super fast, super aggressive, it gets a little hectic, and I think that deck just starts to fall apart just a little bit.
So Zach's hand is Ultra Ball, Muk, Lily. There's Fire in there, so he can... Looks like he's eyeing Ultra Balling the Fire and I think that's a Beast Ring.
Yeah.
So you can grab a Pokemon. He can evolve the Ditto into a Muk. Lily for 8 or 6.
And I think I do want to see him put out the Muk here. Peter's not drawing well, and then his only out is basics with abilities,
Yep.
to get moving from there. And so switch into Jirachi into a supporter that could get Peter right back into the game. So I definitely would like to see him go ahead and put the Muk down and take away that option from Peter.
So he grabs the Naganadel with that Ultra Ball. He evolves the Poipole, evolves the Muk. Lily for 6. Again, could be high 5 worthy, but they opt to not do that. We see a Fire Energy. I think he drew double Blacephalon, Lele, Erica's Fire.
So he's treasured Blacephalon, which doesn't quite work out for I think how the game's going to play. I think Muk's going to stay in play the whole game.
Yeah.
I don't think the Muk is ever leaving play. I don't think Peter can ever afford to chase Muk and still potentially win the game. So I would have definitely liked to have seen him keep the Blacephalon and get rid of the Lele there off the treasure.
Sure.
One important thing that he didn't whiff here was energy. It's very important she hit a Fire Energy this turn. Otherwise, it could have been a very slow game back and forth for a little while. But he's going to be able to be aggressive. has options of Bursting Burn or Burst GX. I assume he's going to Burst GX. The Bursting Burn doesn't quite set up for sure enough damage to make him have to discard, or lost on 1 less energy with Mind Blown. So we should see the Bursting GX, or the Burst GX come out of Zach, I think, here with this Fire Energy.
Do you think maybe he thinks about doing Bursting Balloon just to confuse the Buzzwole so that Peter, if Peter top decked an energy as supporter, he'd have to think about attacking? Because a Confusion Tails would matter here, math-wise. It would drop him to 140, so he'd only need to discard 3 with a future Mind Blown.
I think you're far enough ahead of Zach as well. All you have to do is make sure you just stay ahead.
Sure.
You'll be able to close out the game forever. This also sets up so he can get around Sledgehammer. If he goes Burst GX into knock out the Buzz GX, he goes from 5 to 3.
Yep.
No 4-prize turn for Peter to get off the Sledgehammer, which I think is actually a big deal in this match for Peter to try and get access to, but I don't think it's going to be able to come up. You get to play around it so well actually with the Burst GX. I didn't even really factor that in even in the first game. Like, I feel like it's so easy for Zach to actually play around the Sledge.
Yep. And it looks like he does Burst GX. He discards the second Blacephalon, so that's 2 Blacephalon down.
Yeah, so he only has the 1 left, besides the active one.
He does draw. I think the draw was just the fighting energy. Just attaches it and has to do a paltry 30-30 to the active Blacephalon and the Meganodon. Zach draws and he plays an Erica's Hospitality for 4. Now he's up to, I believe, 7 in his hand.
7 or 8, yeah. And it doesn't really matter what he draws here. I feel like Peter is very much
in trouble.
In trouble. No energy here, though, from Zach, so it's going to be another slow turn from Zach. Last turn was just enough to have him do something efficient, but no energy. He's not going to be able to knock out this Buzzwole. He did get to do the Naganadels, and there was enough fire in the discard, but no fire from hand means no KO this turn for Zach. And I would like to see him, and I think he's going to go with it. Leave the Brooklet Hill in play, puts a fighting Pokemon on the bench, not to the hand, potentially, for Peter, and take away that as an option if you don't need to use your own Ultra Space this turn.
Yep. That coin flipped literally between the GX, or the die flipped literally between the GX counters there. That's pretty wild. That's lucky, but Peter is not this game. But they count it as a heads, because it was on the 4. So he gets rid of the burn effect, but he is still confused.
Yeah. The burn potentially a big deal. It means Zach will have to get rid of 1 more energy next turn if he wants to get the knockout with Mind Blown. If he can find a fire energy, that seems to have been the struggle for Zach so far. More struggles for Peter, though. Not only can he not find energy, he can't find anything else.
Yeah, I think he has like 3 Ultra Ball in his hand and a B-String, or...
There's a Jirachi in there for sure, I saw that.
Maybe Jirachi, yeah. There's 2 Ultra Ball, I think Jirachi and B-String. His hand is garbage.
Yeah.
So...
Not good.
He's using Brooklet. He does only run 1 copy of the Baby Buzz. Baby Buzz, the moment it released, it saw a ton of play and pretty high counts. And in decks even this season, with like Buzz Garb and Buzz Shrine, it's, you still see a lot of high counts. And Peter just felt like he only needs 1. He only needs it for, a Sledgehammer turn.
Yeah, Sledgehammer turn. Maybe there's a turn later in the game where you want to like B-String to it, set up a string around to like offset prizes.
Sure.
But it's not quite as effective as the Buzz GX in the matchups. I think Peter was looking to get the advantage against.
And another Tails on Confusion drops that Buzzwole to 50 damage, which means it is now in the 3 energy threshold for a Mind Blown. See the third Anadel come into play.
But actually, Zach's hand is also just not great. It's fully locked up. No draw supporter there. So you're going to bump the Brooklet here for an Ultra Space and go get a Poipo. I don't actually know if he has anything left to grab. I don't think he does.
I think there's one. Oh, the purple thing I think is just Grimer and Marshadow.
Yeah.
So nothing to grab with Ultra Space.
So Naganadel prize then from Zach, I think. I don't think one got in the discard pile. Definitely, if he knew that, should have held the Ultra Space. Don't give that option to Peter to put Buzzwole GXs in his hand and thin out his deck. Because Peter definitely doesn't want to put stuff on his bench and clog up his bench and give Zach Guzma options.
Sure.
But now you're giving him the option to thin out his deck through using the Ultra Space. So actually, I mean, if Zach draw passes for a couple more turns, we could definitely see Peter make his way back into this one, I think, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's the Bursting Burn.
He's just going to burn him again. The new burn rule, of course, you immediately start his burn and take 20 damage, and you flip a coin, and if it's heads, you're no longer burned, and if it's tails, you continue to be burned, which is different from the old one.
Yep. There we see the Ultra Space to grab the Buzz to hand. Once again, no reason to give Peter that option, I think. I think Zach thought there was another Naganadel in his deck, which then makes sense to do it, because then you thin out your deck by one more card that you don't want to top deck.
Yeah. Takes this Buzz. I didn't see what he drew, but I can't imagine it's good. He hasn't done anything.
We have to assume it's not great.
Peter's only draw supporter. He has 4 Cynthia, 3 Lily, and 2 Kukui. He's already used one of the Kukui, so we'll see. Did he just flip another Tails with Confusion? I think he did.
I think it was, yeah.
And now he's staying burned.
Oh, man.
He actually might even just knock himself out.
Yeah.
With Burn and Confusion, which is terrible.
I'm not even sure he had to go for that Confusion flip there. When his Buzzwole finally does get knocked out, he definitely wants Zach to knock it out through damage and not through having it get knocked out through Burn or Confusion. Still burned. And then you could have the follow-up of your own Buzz GX, and I think he does have a V-String in hand, and if he eventually draws an energy or draw supporter into an energy, he can go with the Knuckle Impact to knock out the Blacephalon. There's a heads finally from Peter. I don't think he went for the attack.
Maybe he wanted to put 60 on this Blacephalon so he could use Sledgehammer or Swing Around to try and get a knockout, because B-String, I guess Sledgehammer wouldn't, but Swing Around could, or an Aura Strike from Lucario.
Yeah, those options would be open if he did get the +3, but he does play like the damage modifiers like Choice Band. Kukui probably not super likely to be able to pull off the combo, but if you get like a draw support into a Choice Band, that's still an open option. Just his Buzzwole getting knocked out going into Zach's turn would be that would probably be the game right there.
Yeah. So Zach tops a Cynthia. He plays an Ultra Ball to just burn cards, and then he will Cynthia for 6. Really just looking for a Fire Energy here.
At the very least. All right, there they are.
He's also got an Ultra Ball and a B-String to respond to whatever Peter manages to do in response, if there is anything.
Looks like he's getting rid of the Lily, but I think the Lily is always going to have more value than the Erica. Okay, looks like he's switching it up. Yeah, I like that. Get rid of the Erica. Not quite as good as Lily with the current board state. Peter's going to be down to 3 Pokemon in play, and you're definitely going to be able to thin out a lot of your hand next turn if Peter does somehow take a knockout. Yeah, we'll see. Zach take the 2 prizes here, and then definitely going to need something from Peter next turn. Need something big from Peter on the next turn.
Yeah. We see him attached to the active Blacephalon. He only needs to pitch 1 energy here with Mind Blown for the knockout.
Wait, I didn't even realize that. I thought it was going to be like 3 or something, but yeah, he's going to have a ton of energy in play still.
Yep, and he does have a B-String as a follow-up, like you said, in case Peter manages some sort of miraculous response here, but there's just pitching 1. Gets rid of that Fire Prism Star. Pushes up the Marshadow. Of course, Peter just wants that thing to buy him a turn or 2.
There's the Fighting Energy top deck. I think as Peter there, you know you're already so far behind, you know you have to top deck. If I was Peter there, I would have sent up the Riolu and been like, I'm going to top deck this turn into a draw supporter or a Choice Band and knock out this Blacephalon.
Yeah, he actually also has Ultra Ball in his hand, so
maybe he has a switch or a skateboard.
Well, so in addition to that, he actually is setting himself up in a position where he could hit this for 120 with Lucario if he had put it up, and then he could Jet Punch and knock it out on the bench later. You know, maybe Guzma up the Muk or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so I definitely would like to have seen him be... Because if you send up this Marshadow being like, I'm going to let this get knocked out no matter what, I think you're playing to lose at that point anyway, and you are just going to lose.
Yeah.
So I definitely would have liked to have seen him play a little bit more aggressively to potentially win the game. I think that would have been definitely nice to see.
He doesn't have any games to give here, so...
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of given up at this point with the Marshadow send up there. We even have a Guzma here from Zach. Goes for the Baby Buzz. I think the Riolu might have been a little bit more beneficial there. Yeah, I definitely would have liked to see the Riolu get knocked out. I don't know why he's going after the Baby Buzz. You're about to shut off B-String. Afraid of the Sledgehammer for 30? I don't think so. I think a Lucario is a little bit bigger of a threat.
Yeah, maybe he just... I don't know.
Same knockout too. You could knock it out with an Ganondorf still.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe he just... Maybe some people are just, you know, they have PTSD or something from
Buzzrock last year.
When Buzzrock ran the game, so...
He's getting some revenge here. He knows he has this one locked up, I'm pretty sure, at this point. I'm pretty sure Zach is pretty comfortable at this point. He's like, well, that Buzzwole did me dirty last year. I'm going to take care of him this year.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. The Muk really... On the surface, it doesn't seem like the Muk is that powerful. But it is really just completely controlling any option that Peter has in this game. You know, if the Muk wasn't in play, he probably would have gotten a Jirachi a long time ago and tried to find a way to take advantage of that. But
yeah, he's had access to a Jirachi for a while now in his hand. Just no reason to mention it. You can't use it.
I think he just went for... I think he pushed up Riolu, attached to fighting, and went for Detect.
Yeah, that was the Detect.
To try and buy himself a turn. Of course, poor Riolu will take a journey to Lost Space or wherever it is that these Ultra Beasts come from. Ultra Space, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he hit tails there, so it's definitely getting sent somewhere.
But this is, I mean, it's, you know, it's unfortunate for Peter. He did, you know, he came in with a pretty cool deck, this Buzzwole deck. You know, Buzzwole is by no means a rogue like we talked about, but I think with the release of stuff like Zapdos and stuff, and Malamar being this popular, Buzz definitely fell off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely fell off pretty hard. And, I mean, Peter definitely, his deck is definitely built to play against certain matchups, and it's done very well up to this point. And a lot of the matchups he was looking to hit, I mean, he hit, and they were very popular. The Zoroark decks, the Pikarom. He has a chance against the Zapdos deck. The Zapdos deck matchup, I think, is definitely tough for him, but it's definitely winnable. Again, there we see the game ends there with
And
Peter scooping.
does concede a pretty brutal 2-game loss there for Peter. Obviously, Blacephalon did exactly what it needed to both of those games. You know, Peter was talking about